Welcome back to Rocket Talk. It is now time for episode 21. I am back after my week off. I do want to thank Corey for jumping in with Johnny and Connor, and as always, I am also joined by Johnny and Connor. So we got some news topics hit first for Nerd News now. The first one would be just with everything that the aftermath of the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and the numerous others. There's kind of been a ripple effect that we've seen in the media field. We've seen iconic video character, voice actors stepping down, and a lot more. So the last few days, we've seen a big push with stuff. Mike Henry, Jenny Slate, and Kristen Bell all have left their roles on Family Guy, Big Mouth, and Central Park, and there's a whole bunch more. But first, let's hit on the voice actors. What are you guys' just initial thoughts on all these? Some of these are prevalent characters. I mean, Cleveland Brown is one of the main characters in Family Guy. It's like, what are you guys' thoughts then on all of them stepping down?
It's I know Cleveland the best. I watch Family Guy still, and it's gonna be tough to see Mike leave the role, but they're gonna find someone else that has a similar voice, a similar cadence to it, unless they're just gonna get rid of the character altogether, which they've done before. It stinks. I mean, there's voices coming from both sides of the argument. It makes sense. People of color should play people of color, whether it's live action or even animated in this case. And then there's people on the other side saying it's unnecessary. They're just animations. But, it stinks. But, with the pressure from the current times, I get it.
Yeah, it's a smart move because it can get you out of potential backlash. And so whether that is a good idea or just people see it as pandering, either way, it's probably a move for the better.
Yeah, same. I agree. Like it's. I'm actually surprised that it's taken this long for Cleveland Brown to, or the voice actor Mike Henry to step down from Cleveland Brown's voice. But I mean, I guess better late than never.
Yeah, and he also was the voice of Consuela, so that'll change too. He also is the voice of Herbert, but he's white and Herbert's white, so. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some more of this. The voice of Apu stepped down earlier this year for The Simpsons after years of backlash on the stereotypical Indian man for Apu and just all the issues that have come with that. But we're seeing a lot more. Like I mentioned, Jenny Slate will no longer be Missy on Big Mouth, and Kristen Bell will no longer be Molly on Central Park, which is on Apple TV Plus. And we've even seen a few other shows start to edit stuff out or to start over scripts. The Office is editing out a blackface that is in one of the later episodes. And Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the writers actually scrapped every episode they had for the upcoming season, and they're just going to start over just to kind of just reflect on everything that's been going on and all that. But probably the biggest one out of all this would be Jenna Marbles announced that she's going to leave YouTube after backlash from a blackface from years ago, and so she posted an apology on YouTube. But yeah, she is leaving the platform, and she's. I mean, it's like I forgot about her, but it's one of those. She's been on YouTube for forever, and she has over 20 million subscribers, and it's a big blow for someone big on YouTube.
And I was scrolling through the comment section, and just like with Twitter, where a lot of these announcements for the voice actors were going, there were statements from both sides. I would say the overwhelming majority of people are really upset that she's leaving, because they feel like she's been forced out by this this politically correct cancel culture. But then there are other people saying, if she feels like this is for the best, then it's her decision that only she has the right to speak on. As far as her staying or going, but it is going to be a huge blow to YouTube because she's one of the OG creators, as you said, and she's one of the biggest female creators. So it's going to be weird scrolling through YouTube and not seeing her face.
For sure.
Yeah, from her video, she did make it seem that. Yes, of course she did get pushback from everything that she's done, but she said that she wanted to make it clear that this was her decision to leave, and I respect that. There is a lot of reason that she, there was a lot of, like I said, pushback that got her to make that decision, but it was her decision. So even though it is something that she did say there's a chance she might come back, but for right now she's taking a break, which could be, it could be forever or it could be 6 months or however long. But for the time being, it seems like she's going to be gone potentially for good. But it was her decision, which is what she said, and I think that that's probably the best thing. Rather than her necessarily getting canceled, it's more she's choosing to leave. Because
on her own terms, and
right.
I still watch her occasionally, and it sounds like she's been thinking about leaving the platform or just moving on to maybe a different platform or maybe even a different career path altogether for some time now. I mean, she's been on there for so long, and she's in her 30s now, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was just in her subconscious that she just wants to find the next thing.
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't be surprised either. Hopefully a few more of the actual more problematic people on YouTube like Shane Dawson now eventually leave as well.
He did post an apology video. It was a genuine. I mean, I'm not one to accept this apology because it's not directed towards me, but he did seem genuine. However far my white opinion can go, which is like not at all, but like he seemed regretful for everything that he's done, and I have to say that that's something. But and he did acknowledge that his previous apologies were not true apologies. So
I don't think this one was that much either, but oh well.
That's fair. Again, I'm not exactly, my opinion isn't one that matters, but so it's really a reflection on what everybody else thinks. His black viewers, what they think about his apology.
I don't know a darn thing about Shane Dawson, but it sounds like he's said some rather terrible things.
He's done a lot of just stuff,
Absolutely.
like saying offensive language. Another big one he did is like just has done a lot of weird stuff, like over sexualizing underage people and
I want to make it clear that like while I said that his apology seemed sincere, that doesn't necessarily mean that I think that he should continue being on YouTube. Like I don't think that he might be sincere and he might regret it and never do it again, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I think that he is, in the clear whatsoever, but sometimes you can be sincere and people, even if people do accept your apology, that doesn't mean that it's, just all forgiven. So there needs to be some repercussions. He himself said that he thinks he should have been, his career should have ended long ago. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. I don't understand how he's still around, but after recent, everything coming to light and his apology, regardless of how, how that may be received, I don't think that he's going to be around for too much longer. So,
yep. So, and then speaking of some just, controversial stuff, HBO Max did also get South Park now coming to the streaming platform, but they are not including 5 controversial episodes, which, a good chunk of them are the ones related to episodes where Muhammad is mentioned, and just to avoid the issue that does come with people of the Islam faith that already caused the controversy when these episodes premiered years ago, they're just going to just not have them. So if people want to watch Super Best Friends from Season 5, Cartoon Wars Part 1 and 2 from Season 10, and 200 and 201 from Season 14, they're going to have to go find them on another platform, but they're not going to be able to watch it on HBO.
It's South Park. This comes as no shock whatsoever that they were going to really, really cross the line at some point.
Yeah, it's... The whole 201, that's definitely like one of the biggest ones where it even had a lot of issues back when that first episode aired with Comedy Central having to beef up security and the creators seeing a lot of death threats, and then they last second they went and they edited the episode. Wow.
I've never really watched South Park, but it seems like that this is, even with knowing how they're very famous for crossing the line, if it's so bad that they had to pull these episodes and do all that you said, increase security, it makes me wonder how how bad this must be, you know?
I haven't seen the episodes in particular. I'm actually trying to get through a lot of South Park, and I go through phases where it's really funny and then where it's just like, meh. But apparently, for every episode, the creators released a statement. I was reading this article that you shared. They stand by every single episode, and they were really, really upset with any sort of edits or censors they had to make, even where they weren't mentioning Muhammad specifically in like big, I guess, Cartman or Kenny or Cartman, it was Cartman, had like a big monologue at the end of a certain episode. They just started unnecessarily censoring it, even though he never even brought up Muhammad's name. But they stand behind each and every single episode they make. So whether it's controversial or not, it all does reflect back on the creators.
Yeah. But, so, I mean, I wasn't surprised that when I saw it. I was like, oh, yeah, that's it. South Park pushed the line. And it just, those episodes are like the 200, 201 are close to a decade old now, and some of those other ones are 15 years old, almost 20 years old. So it's only a matter of time. Moving on to another news topic, we do have Michael Keaton has been rumored to be in talks to return as Batman in the Flashpoint movie, which I'm sure that definitely made a lot of people very happy. Michael Keaton is a lot of people's favorite interpretations of Batman. Obviously up there with Christian Bale as well, but it's really cool that we could see him return as a different version of Bruce Wayne.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he's got the swagger. I think he's got everything for a good Bruce Wayne.
I mean, he does because he already was one.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I mean, The Flash is one of my favorite superheroes, and getting was it confirmation? Because a lot of them, like, I'm getting mixed signals on whether it, like, the wording is in talks or reported, or like it doesn't say confirmed.
So from what I've seen, its sources are confirming to places, but it hasn't been one where we've actually seen DC come out and say it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I would say then it's all but confirmed, which is great, and that makes me excited because I want to see more of the Flash in general, but to see an iconic Batman actor returning as Batman is just icing on the cake.
And what's crazy is so it'll be 30 years since he's been Batman by the time this comes out, because he was last Batman in 1992. Wow.
Yeah, this will be great because, I mean, Batman and the Flash, they don't have a lot of interaction typically. I mean, usually it's Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and then everybody else is kind of like the side Justice League characters. So to see Batman and the Flash being in a movie together, where I'm presuming they're going to be featuring Batman prominently in this Flashpoint movie, that gets me excited because it means more Batman in a Flash film. And I'm a big fan of when they have, when big characters are having big roles in other characters' movies, like Wonder Woman was in BVS, or like on the Marvel side, Black Widow was in the second Captain America movie. Examples
or
like
Iron
that.
Man and the first
Spider-Man. Yeah, exactly. So to see more of that's stuff that gets me excited, because I think that when you have that dynamic between any two really big characters, that it makes the movie that much better.
Mm-hmm. And then it happened again. Tenet got delayed again. So now it's supposed to come out in August. So movies are getting delayed again. It's because the people aren't wearing their masks. Wear your masks. Because people aren't wearing their masks. COVID is spiking again in America. So now the movie is getting delayed another couple weeks to, as of right now, August 12th. So we'll see how long that stays. We'll see if it ever gets pushed back. But
it seems like, I mean, that people are like that they want this movie to be released as soon as it possibly can, as soon as theaters open, the day one that they reopen, and that, like, to keep delaying it like this every 2 weeks, 2 weeks back every 2 weeks, just seems a little, like, I don't know, it just seems a little too pie in the sky, like that they think that either either they think that this movie is going to be more important than any other film, or it honestly is a little bit insulting to a lot of people who are suffering from COVID, because it just seems like, if you can't push it back a few months, then you're just waiting for this to be the next big thing to get people back into the theaters.
Yeah, because I think they want it to be like the opening, like the thing that's, because no matter whenever like movie theaters open, whatever movie's there is going to do well selling tickets, just like how when NASCAR and soccer and golf and all these sports come back, they've had like record viewership because it'd be like, oh, sports are back. And so they need the same thing. Like Tenet was already going to do well in the box office, but if it's like the first big blockbuster back, it's going to do even better.
Yeah, I am looking forward to seeing it, but I'm just kind of I don't know. There's something like I just have a little bit of a negative reaction to this kind of approach, where it seems like rather than taking it seriously and pushing a movie back far in advance so people can have the time out of theaters, even when they reopen, to kind of, deal with the pandemic. This is something that will draw people back into the theaters and get the pandemic to be like the virus to be spread even more, because
I definitely get where you're coming from. Although it did cost them $200 million to make, but I totally get exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, like I don't think that you should be lose enthusiasm over the movie, but a lot of movies are pushing it back months in advance because I'm sure they have their own reasons. I'm sure that the virus isn't necessarily like I don't know exactly what the reasons are.
They see that big opportunity when the doors open. They want to be part of that. So it's very strategic. And it makes sense.
The different types of delays have been strategic in all the different ways. Tenet trying to delay to be in one of the first weekends that theaters are open nationwide means they're that first one there. Where a place like Disney, it's like, okay, well, let's push back Mulan. Okay, but then we all. Like where someone like Disney has so many movies, it's like, okay. But then you have the ones who are maybe a little smarter, like how we saw the Fast and Furious movie get pushed back 11 months. And right now, that looks like the best delay we've seen because, we already got Mulan delayed, and that's already been delayed. We got SpongeBob delayed, and then that turned into a digital-only release like we saw with Scoob and Trolls, and we're seeing a lot more of those family-friendly movies doing that. But then we still have these blockbusters that are holding out hope that they can come out at some point, either the end of the summer or in the fall. But
it's funny when Fast and Furious first got announced that it was delayed 11 months. I thought that was insane, but here we are looking at the situation of the world and our country in general, and I'm just like, you know what, that makes sense. I can kind of see it, taking that long. So, but we'll see. I mean, it's only the end of June right now, and we will see what happens in the coming months.
Mm-hmm. And then our final Nerd News Now topic of the day will be Netflix recently shared its sneak peek of the Cuphead series that's coming to the platform. So it was announced not too long back that there's going to be a cartoon that's going to be based off of the popular video game. So it's going to have a similar art style to a classic 20s and 30s Looney Tunes or early Disney cartoons. So I still have not actually played Cuphead. I need to go and buy it for my Switch, but I am very excited to see this since the art style of that game is wonderful.
I absolutely loved the game. It was insanely difficult, as I'm sure already, but it was a lot of fun, and if you've got, I think it's more for the people who have a little bit of patience, and so it'll be like having it as a series, which is a lot less stressful for a lot of gamers, is something I'm definitely looking forward to, and a lot of people seem to be looking forward to. And of course, it's going to have the old art style, which is one of the biggest draws to the game in general, and as well as this Netflix series. So. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it.
I only ever saw the sneak peek of it, but did they release any information like what age range they're gonna shoot for this TV show to pander to?
They didn't, but I kind of imagine that it's gonna be. I don't think it's going to be a mature theme, but I also don't think it's going to be a kid show either.
It's going to be targeted for children, but they're going to. It seems like they're going to do the SpongeBob approach or something like that. Because it says Studio MDHR also anticipated that they will include humor and gags for adult audience appreciation. So
Okay,
it's going to be like SpongeBob or Shrek, where there's going to be jokes that will fly over kids' heads that an adult or just a more mature person is going to be like, haha, I see what you're doing there. I guess mature is maybe not the most appropriate word, but yeah, it's going to be, they're going to have stuff that'll make it so it's not just dumbed down.
All right, cool. That's awesome. This is a fantastic idea for a great franchise. There's very many video games where they try to make a series for it, or a series, and they make video games for it, and it only really works one way for the most part. But I could see this one really knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, hopefully though they can also. I know there's supposed to be DLC for the game coming out too, but with the art style, it takes quite a while. But yeah, what a crazy life this series has had now. As it to start off as just a fun little quirk and turn into a game and now a TV show. But speaking of video games, that'll move us then into our topic of the week. This week in the last episode, Johnny, Connor, and Corey briefly touched on Crash Bandicoot 4, as at that point it wasn't officially announced at the time of recording, but a lot of stuff had leaked. But then on actually my birthday, on the 22nd, that was officially announced. So Crash Bandicoot 4, it's about time. It's coming out October 2nd. It is being developed by Toys for Bob, who's mainly known for their work on Skylanders, Spyro Reignited Trilogy, and they also did the Switch port for the Insane Trilogy. But speaking of the Switch, it is actually not coming to the Switch. So as of right now, Crash didn't come out on the Switch right away. Spyro didn't come out right away on the Switch. So maybe we'll see it come out. But yeah, it's kind of weird that I get that they want to focus on the PS4, the Xbox One, so they can make it as pretty as they can, and then maybe we see a dumbed down version a few months down the line. But it's still crazy. So.
How long did Insane Trilogy take to get to the Switch? Like
a year, because PlayStation, because that one was because PlayStation helped fund development for it, and so they signed a agreement to get the game exclusive for a year. Where Spyro, I don't honestly know why they waited a year to put it on the Switch and the PC, besides just the additional development time. That's really all I could think of. So I guess the one saving grace is, while you guys both don't own a PS4 or an Xbox One, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X should be out, unless there's a delay, probably about a month after the game comes out. So if you guys are both planning on getting, I know Johnny has plans to get the PS5. So Connor, if you're planning on getting a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, if you can just hold off about a month, you'll be able to, you can get the game when you also get your new system. But yeah, there's over the last couple of days, we've gotten a lot more information about it too, and so we can kind of go over it and some of our thoughts as we are hopefully excited for it. I'm very excited for this game. I told my girlfriend, there's not too many games that I want to get day one for the rest of the year, just to kind of save money for the PS5, for a new car and all that. But I said, when they announced the Crash Bandicoot game that is coming, that's going to be a day one buy.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. If I had the system for it, I would absolutely get it. Actually, my brother has an Xbox One, and he never uses it. He says it collects dust, so I might just ask him to ship that on.
Yeah, just like, hey man, can I borrow? Like, hey, can I borrow this? Give it back to you at Christmas time.
Yeah, exactly. So this is definitely something I would, if I'm allowed to have that Xbox One, I'm gonna get this day one.
Yeah, and then so if you do want to get it day one, if you buy it digitally, you will get exclusive skins, the totally tubular, so you'll look like you're straight out of the 90s. That's a fun thing too. So the premise of the game is that it takes place directly after Crash 3, and so they're playing a lot with that. Where with the name, it's about time because the game is about time, but also it's about time because it's following up Crash 3. And so Cortex, Entropy, and Uka Uka, escape the space-time prison they're in, and they basically create a rip in the fabric of time. And so Crash will have to use and Coco have to use 4 new quantum masks to assist them in saving the world. So it's going to be kind of similar to the Wrath of Cortex, which is also called Crash 4 in Japan, where they also have 4 new masks that are in it, but instead of being the elemental masks on the bad side, the quantum masks look like they'll be on the good side. So we know 2 so far. one that'll control time and one that will control gravity. So in the middle of levels, it'll be an extra little puzzle you have to do where you have to slow down time to get through platforms, or you'll have to switch gravity to get through these traps. So it looks awesome. We're also expected to have more than 100 levels.
Holy shit.
For reference, Crash Bandicoot 3 with all the bonus levels, including the new level in Insane Trilogy, is, I want to say, 31 or 32 levels. So
Wow.
So is it really going to be that long, or are they shrinking the levels for the sake of time?
So I
Maybe
think
a
it's going
little
to be
bit of
that
both?
long. So they were remakes, but the Crash remakes were $40. CTR was $40. Spyro was $40. So and then this is 60. So I want to say they're going to make them around the same length that they are on, the other games. So it's 100 levels.
Wow,
Jesus.
that's awesome. Like that gets me a little bit more excited to get it for PS5. Just waiting that little bit longer, because when I get my new system, I'll be looking forward to getting some games that are new, but also some games that are on the PS4. So hopefully this is something that's worth all the hype and worth the time that it's taken to make it. So
yeah. I mean, this was one you knew this was coming after Insane Trilogy did so well, and then after CTR and Spyro, also did very well. It was like this is gonna happen. But yeah, it's gonna have 100 levels, and it also is gonna have new game modes according to an email that GameStop sent out to fans. So that's another one that's gonna be interesting to see. Like what is that gonna be? Is that going to be a Crash Bash remake in there? Is that going to be something similar, like some more like party mini games? Are we going to see maybe a minor, a very brief spiritual successor to CTR, where you have just like a smaller cast and a smaller selection of tracks, or what that is? But that's going to be very interesting to see what comes with that. But one of the other big new things in this is going to be the designs. They have brand new designs, so it's kind of a mix of their classic designs, some of the later game designs, and just overall to give it a very cartoony look. What are you guys' thoughts then on these new designs?
I think it looks gorgeous.
yeah, totally. Like I love that it looks like it's made for it looks like it's made for the PS5. And even though it's not getting released right away on that, but that's great. Like I love everything about it. The design of the characters, the design of the levels, even the gameplay mechanics with the gravity and time alterations. Like it's so cool. Like it's definitely a 2020 game, and it's something that Crash fans will be very much looking forward to.
Yeah, it seems like a nice evolution. Yeah, where it's taking what worked for the series, but then bringing it into some more modern times of stuff.
I do want to add that that the name "It's About Time" reminds me of the name of Donkey Kong Country Returns. And I say that because when there was that 3-year period between Donkey Kong Country Returns and the announcement of Tropical Freeze, where I knew that just by definition, by saying a series returns, that game alone will not be the end, and that there will be more to follow. So with this Crash game being called It's About Time, I know who, like, I don't know much about the Crash series as a whole, but I know about, how games or how games work really in general. I know enough to know that this Crash 4 is almost guaranteed to not be the last one. There's going to be a Crash 5, there might even be a Crash 6 and going on. So if this is, something that a lot of people are excited about, it's also not the end, because I don't think that they would call it It's About Time if it wasn't something to celebrate and say, don't worry, this game is not the end. There's going to be way more to come. And yeah, so I'd say look forward to the next 5-10 years of a lot more Crash.
Yeah, well, because you knew that was coming too, because since right before Crash came out with the Insane Trilogy, they also ended the support for Skylanders. And Activision and for the shareholders, having that one family-friendly game is a big thing for the shareholders for Activision. So yes, and then with how Insane Trilogy was so successful, and then how the follow-ups with Spyro and CTR, and then now this one, as long as this one sells well as it probably will, and then the inevitable Spyro 4, or whatever they want to call the next Spyro game, when that sells well, then it's the point that we're probably, for the next 10 years, we're going to be getting a new Crash, Spyro, or some sort of party game for one of those two each year, to be the quota of the family-friendly one. So
Totally.
But going into another thing to make it a little more modern, the game is going to have microtransactions. And so that I know that is one that has upset some people. Personally, I am not upset about this because what it's going to be is it's going to be skins. So when you're running through your single player levels Crash Bandicoot, instead of being his new skin, you can be Pilot Crash Bandicoot, or you can be Purple Crash, or Coco with a Halloween outfit. And so I was like, I don't care. People, when they hear the word microtransaction, it's like they said, some of the worst words known to man. And it's like, it is when it's predatory in stuff that like you need to buy the microtransactions in order to succeed. But if it's just skins and cosmetic stuff, who cares? Like people go ahead.
If you wanna like, if you love Halloween and you want to get a Halloween skin or a Christmas skin or a glow in the dark skin, whatever, go for it because you want to. If you're the kind of person that wants to buy everything and you're willing to spend your own money to do it, great. But as long as there's no paywalls, then I don't see the problem with it. I don't see the problem with having this be an option because we live in 2020. We live in a world where a lot of games are going to get a little bit of money from microtransactions. It makes sense. So why not give extra content? And I want to clarify, extra content, not mandatory content, for a little bit of extra money. If people are willing to buy it, go for it. But it's not a paywall, so there shouldn't really be a problem.
I was first hesitant until you said that it wasn't going to be it was just going to be
it's
extra
gonna be
content. It's not
stuff.
going to be that bad. Yeah, cosmetics. That's fine. If it was predatory in nature, that's where it would leave a really bad taste in my mouth.
People got mad with CTR when they did it, and the issue wasn't that they added microtransactions in CTR. It's that they waited until the game was out for 2 or 3 months and then added it after they said they weren't going to. Because that was where that issue came with. Because sure, it was easier to get coins to get your customization stuff by playing online than single player, and the rates were really confusing at first for people to figure out, and this and that. But if someone wanted, like when they announce it, it's like, okay, cool, I don't care if I play online and I see that someone on the first day of the Grand Prix has everything. Who cares, man? If someone wants to really go and drop $50 and get all the skins unlocked right away, cool. They just paid $50. That's going to go to Activision to say, hey, someone spent money on this game, so keep supporting it. So it's when it's the situations like the microtransaction issues is when it's been in games like Call of Duty, when new weapons are behind loot crates where you pay $2 for a chance to get a weapon,
the worst case of Mario Kart Tour.
or Mario, hey, here, pay $40 to get Diddy Kong. And it's like, or you have to pay to play on 200cc and just all the other just weird, stuff like that is not good for consumers.
What were they doing in NBA 2K 18 and what was that other one, Battlefront? I heard there was some huge backlash for those.
Well, so the big issue in a lot of sports games now is that they all into these ultimate teams or my teams or stuff where basically you get trading cards and you build your you open a pack in Madden and it comes with a Patrick Mahomes and a Jerry Rice and a Barry Sanders and so it comes with a bunch of players and they're all and there's different rarities, and so you can get a Patrick Mahomes that is just like regular Madden Patrick Mahomes where he has gaudy stats and he tears it up, but then you can get a rookie Stephon Diggs card if it's Madden 16, where it's he's a 70 overall and it's an unknown commodity, and so as you play you can get better decks or you can buy money. And so that was the issue that you saw in a lot of sports games, or when in Battlefront or Call of Duty, they would have a bunch of stuff that you would either have to spend money or grind way too many hours, getting some of the heroes, playing as Darth Vader. you could buy, or you could grind 3 or 4 days of multiplayer to unlock him. And I mean, maybe 3 or 4 days. I mean, like 72 to 96 in-game hours.
Gotcha.
To unlock him. Yeah. So it was a lot of stuff like that where it was predatory, or it was very much the easy way out to unlock those things, and it was unfair. It's a reason why Call of Duty and NBA and while these games still sell, they do get a lot of backlash for it. Like it's, you go watch any Call of Duty YouTuber's video about some of the more recent Call of Duties before the current one, before Modern Warfare, and it's a lot of the same things on their year in review video for Black Ops 4. When they get to the bad section, the first thing they bring up is the microtransactions, because it was horrible. And so this game having microtransactions is not going to be horrible unless they start putting levels in it. Like, hey, you either have to get all the relics to unlock this new set of levels, or you can pay $10. Because if they do something like that, then that'll be an issue. But if it's just a skin for Crash and Coco and Cortex, who I also forgot to mention is also playable in the game, then who cares?
Yeah, that is where it's like, it's a fun little extra thing to include. That's fine. Yeah. But hopefully it's just that. And I don't know too much about, like, I don't know if this is going to be some sort of like gateway to them starting to do it. I don't know if perhaps there are some people out there who think this could be, the mere principle of having microtransactions could be the start of something terrible.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
doubtfully.
It's like microtransactions are here to stay. It's just it is what it is. And well, the nice thing is that I'm someone that I would rather have a microtransaction world where it's not a shitty microtransaction system like Call of Duty or 2K, where if that means more free content, like Call of Duty now. The Call of Duty formula has gone to more of one like you see in Fortnite, where you have season passes and it's like $10 and you get a whole bunch of new content, but all of the maps and the new guns and all that's completely free. You don't have to, someone goes out and buys a copy of Modern Warfare. They don't have to drop a single dime, and they can get all the same weapons that someone who spends money can. And yeah, sure, if someone spends money, they can go through the season pass a little quicker, and they get those guns unlocked a little quicker instead of having to go and play 10 matches where they get a couple kills. But it isn't one that, you have to spin a roulette wheel to maybe get a gun, or you can spend money to get better chances of maybe getting the gun. It's like, I would rather have it be where you can have some microtransactions to get to a couple things maybe slightly quicker, or it's all cosmetic, than it being having to pay for DLC again.
Mm-hmm. It's just if it's more options, then that's where it's beneficial. If it's just more options, but if it's predatory, then
exactly. But I mean, we briefly mentioned it before too. On top of it having 100 plus levels and some different modes, what are some new modes you may want to see added to the game? Is there anything you can think of in particular that really isn't in the game that you'd want to see?
I mean, I'm a big fan of multiplayer co-op modes, and I know that, like, as a part of the story mode, and they didn't confirm that would be the case, and I'm assuming it wouldn't be, but there is a chance that maybe you can play as Crash and Coco together, have 2-player co-op mode. I think that would be something that would be fantastic. I love that kind of thing. So if that happened, that wouldn't technically be a new mode, but maybe you could consider it one. But that would be an addition I would absolutely love to see.
I was actually going to say the same thing. That way I can play with them.
Yeah, because it
girlfriend
would
mode
be fun.
or wife mode.
Like, yeah, that'd be a ton of fun to do that, where you can go and because in like all the chaoticness of it too, where running through it 2 people, like think about how chaotic New Super Mario Brothers is when you play 4-player mode.
Oh yeah, I mean, Connor and I played 2-player just last week, and that alone was insane. So with 4 people, it's like even crazier.
Yeah, so it's. Yeah, I would want to see that, and then I think I would put in just a very small party mode in there too. That can be a good idea for a game mode. I mentioned Crash Bash could be something they could do. They could do like because people want a Crash Bash remake, which I don't know why, because Crash Bash is not that good. But it'd be fun to have there's something smaller where you can play some of the mini games from Crash Bash or something similar, like not a full on Mario Party, but like a collection of a few mini games like you would see in a Mario Party. Because then you do have a multiplayer action, and it can be fun. And if they wanted to, they could do a Crash Bash remake as the alternate game mode on top of the 100+ levels of the story mode to have just even more content.
Which would be awesome. I would actually love if they were to have something similar to a Mario Party that way, because like you go into like a beercade or something like that, or just any regular arcade, and it's always Mario Party. But I would love to see if they could have something Crash Bandicoot related like that, and they could have eventually that same. I don't know if they would ever have the same impact as Mario, never.
But they could still make an impact, yeah, because it's the same too, yeah. Like you go to bars and you're not going to see Diddy Kong Racing or Crash Team Racing or Sonic, and All Stars. Like you're going to see Mario Kart, but you might be able to find one if it's the right one that has Crash Team Racing or Diddy Kong, and if you have a good enough party game. Like a crash party game, then you could see that where a place might we want to have all the non Mario like equivalents, and so you could have that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I am counting down the days. So we're about 3 months away by the time this episode comes out. So I am very excited, and I'm excited to see what more too. The nice thing is they've revealed stuff, but there's still a lot we don't know. Like we know because of GameStop that there's 100+ levels, and we've seen some of the stuff, but we don't know, like when it says 100 levels, what does that mean? How many of them are traditional platformers? How many of them are going to be, the vehicle levels or stuff like that, like you see in Crash Warped? How many of them are you riding someone? Is Polar there? Is Purah there? Do you ride them? Is there a new animal you ride? What bosses are returning? What new bosses are there? Another one that's a big thing to think about is, so this game takes place before Crash Bandicoot, The Wrath of Cortex, Twinsanity, Mind Over Mutants, all the games that have come out after 1998. But will they do some sort of references to the other games? One of the bosses they show apparently is an Easter egg to one of the later Crash games. Are they going to have Crunch Bandicoot or Nina Cortex or some of these other characters that are liked that are in newer games? Are they going to have references to that? Are they going to have a reference to the Iron Checkpoint crate from CTR? The fun thing about it is since they're kind of almost doing a rebooted timeline, is they can then still go and they can reintroduce all these things where they can introduce a character like Crunch in a game that maybe is a little more liked.
Yeah, perhaps. It would be great to see all these. It would be great to see references without it being too heavy on pandering. I was also gonna throw in, like, is this going to be the start of? Are they going to remaster more games? Like, well, I don't know why. I don't think
I mentioned this.
I was just about to say Wrath of Cortex, but never in a million years would they do that.
I mentioned this. I want to say I said on a previous episode before. After CTR, there really isn't one they can do. Maybe the only ones I can really see a remaster that would go over decently well is the GBA games, because those are the only ones post CTR that have a pretty prominent positive reception. And so that's really about it. But those are GBA games, so maybe we could see a reimagining of those where they try to reimagine some of those stages in a full 3D platformer. But people, there's people that like the Wrath of Cortex, like yourself, and Twinsanity is probably the best candidate of all the post Naughty Dog Crash games. But that one is also more of a same reason people want Sonic 06 remade, is because there's a lot of good potential there, but because of rush development and cut corners, the game is not as good as it could be. And so while Twinsanity isn't a complete broken mess like 06 is, it still had that same issue, and it's the same reason people want an 06 remake, is so the game gets potential. But then at that point, it's more of a reimagining as well, which, I mean, that maybe, but I feel like with this, it's the start of, we're going to see brand new Crash games, maybe we'll see stuff like, oh yeah, this game was inspired by Twinsanity, and we took the Twinsanity approach. We want to make our, instead of a Twinsanity 2 or Twinsanity remake, we want to make our own thing.
Do you think it would, like, they could? No, that wouldn't be. I was gonna say maybe they could do what they did with Crash 1, 2, and 3, like throw a few games in together, like even if they were never that received that well, but maybe, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, but then the other issue you run into as well is outside of the 2 Game Boy games and Wrath of Cortex, they don't have a trilogy they could do with similar styles. Because you have the Wrath of Cortex, which is basically a poor man's Crash 3, and then the next mainline game was Crash Twinsanity, which was more open world collectathon type of game. And then after that, you went into Crash of the Titans and Mind Over Mutant, which those two are connected, but they're still vastly different from Twinsanity and Wrath of Cortex. And
yeah, that could just be a jumbled mess. It clashes.
So
too much with
they
each
could
other.
maybe, like I said, if they wanted to maybe sell it for a little cheaper, maybe $25, $30, maybe they could do a Crash of the Titans Mind Over Mutant combo remake, or the Huge Adventure and Entranced, the 2 handheld games. But after that, yeah, you run into, because people aren't clamoring for a Crash Bandicoot Purple, Ripto Rampage, or Spyro Orange Cortex Conspiracy remake, because those GBA games were hot garbage, and like you're not going to see people that want Boom Bang back, or we already have CTR that brought in a bunch of the stuff that people wanted from Nitro Kart and the iPhone versions of Nitro Kart and all that we're probably not going to see a Crash Tag Team Racing remake.
Oh, well, a man can dream. A Wrath of Cortex fan can dream. No, this is the time for original content.
But I think it'd be smart to pull from the Wrath of Cortex. Well, one thing that they should do, I need to send you the video, is so the game was developed by Traveler's Tales for Wrath of Cortex. And so John Burton, who is one of the co-founders at Traveler's Tales, he has been running a YouTube channel for the last couple years called Game Hut, and so he just goes in with a bunch of just different stuff that they worked on. Like he talked about how they got something done with Toy Story, ways they got a video onto the Sonic 3D Blast cartridge, and stuff like that. And recently he did one where it went over the original pitch that they had to Universal for Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex, and that could be one where they could take the original idea with some of the different things that they had. Because like one of the big ones was there was a character that was similar to what became of Nina, but instead of it being his niece who's also evil, it was his daughter who was more good. And so there was a lot of stuff like that. So, or Twinsanity sort of has a more serious tone, and it was basically Ratchet and Clank with Crash Bandicoot characters, and then after Ratchet and Clank came out, they decided to restart development. So there's a bunch of different stuff they can pull from the games without just remaking them and still being original.
Mm-hmm. And what did you say that guy was? Who did you say that guy was?
John Burton.
John
Burton. Game Hut. So yeah, he's been part of. He's been part of Traveler's Tales.
All of this has just been like a massive history of Crash Bandicoot, which I'm just learning a lot about.
you like some of the other viewers. Yeah, I know I loved it. Like while I'm more of a Sonic fan than the Crash series, like I mentioned on my episode, Crash Bandicoot was the series that really got me into video games as a kid, and so like it does hold a special place in my heart, especially those original 4 Naughty Dog games. And with this one being more like the original trilogy of platformers, it has me super excited because we haven't had a Crash game like this since Wrath of Cortex. And and as much as I like to bag on Wrath of Cortex, it is one that it was ambitious, and it was another one of those games that also fell to rush development. And if it would have had a little more time, then maybe it could have been a true successor to it that people enjoyed, even if it still was never fully the same. But
there were times where it just completely ripped off of 3, and but it also incorporated elements that were in 3, like remember how Crash was swinging from the ceiling, and he was using monkey bars and stuff, and they used that element in Wrath of Cortex, but they slowed it down and made the distances greater, and it was not nearly as cool. And
yeah, they're trying to make it way more expansive.
Tonality clashes and stuff, yeah.
And
but
and
music was pretty good.
Yeah, the music was great because they had Josh Mansell back, and the voice acting was great because they got Clancy Brown back and Mel Winkler back to be Cortex, Uka Uka, and Aku Aku. But then the fact that they got all of these different big names to be to like how they had Arlie Ermy, Mark Hamill, Thomas Wilson, Jess Harnell, who now is actually the voice of Crash. They had some incredible voice actors to be the elementals, and so there's a lot of stuff with that game that while a remake might not be the best, a full reimagining could be one where they take it, and in a way this game kind of is that with Crash 4. It's about time. Think about it, like they're both about using for special masks to help you stop Cortex's evil plan. It's just that it's different. I do hope if they're really smart, at some point after Cortex gets back, they hold a meeting in space where Uka Uka shows them a chart of their evil doings, just like the intro of Wrath of Cortex. And he calls them nincompoops.
Idiots, fools, nincompoops.
Oh man, that's great.
That would be awesome.
But yeah, I like I said, I am very excited for it. I know Connor's excited too, and it sounds like Johnny, for someone who isn't as much of a Crash person, you are excited as well. And hey, maybe this can be the thing that gets you more into it. So then once you if you love this one, then you'll go back and then you'll play a little more of the re-released original 4.
Yeah, so. It's unfortunate because it's like I want to love it, but the more that I will end up loving it means more money I'm going to be spending on other games in the series. So it's like.
But the good thing though is that let's say you love it, okay. CTR and Insane Trilogy both are going to be cheaper because they're older, and then also on last gen console. And then if you don't get it into Spyro, they'll probably rotate every couple years. One will be Crash, one will be Spyro, one will be Crash Party, one will be Spyro Party, or something that it won't be one that every year you're putting one out. But who knows too what Activision will do.
I'm looking forward to it, whatever it is.
Yes, so listeners will definitely have to tune in to our to after the game comes out too, and I can give some of my more impressions on it in October. So look forward to future Rocket Talks many months from now on it. But I think with that, we can move on into the recommendations. So with Corey being our special guest last week, she recommended Six, the musical, which is a musical about Henry VIII's wives. And oh man, when I first saw this, I didn't know what it was. And then when I looked it up, that it was about Henry VIII's wives, I was like, this is perfect because Henry VIII is such a fun meme in so many ways for two different reasons. So one of them, there's an inside joke I have of people I went to high school with. There's this YouTube channel that they make like history videos for people, but they do them as like parodies of real songs. And so there's one called Henry, 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 and it's to the tune of Money, Money, Money by ABBA. And so it's one of those that if you listen to it, it'll just get stuck in your head. And it was one that my sophomore year world history teacher, Mr. Hertz, showed us, and it became like that class that we were all in with him. That became like a big meme we had with all of it. And then one of my favorites as well, besides that, is there's a Twitter account I follow that they'll tweet out how old Henry VIII would be if he was still alive today. And actually, his birthday was just a few days ago. His birthday was yesterday. So like right now on June 29th, if Henry VIII would have been alive today, he'd be 529 years and 1 day old. Wow. And so they just tweet that out, like, and they stopped for a year or so, but they're back on it where they tweet out every day. It's around the same time they tweet out roughly around lunchtime, and he'd say, it's if you were alive today.
Well, I do want to say that Connor, I did you get a chance to watch it?
Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to watch it. Corey sent a link that to the musical itself, but it was taken down by the owner. So I listened to the soundtrack on Spotify.
Yeah, I was only able to do the same but I do plan to watch the musical if I'm given the opportunity.
So I only listened to it because at first Connor said, hey, the recommendation was this. So I thought I should listen to it. And then earlier today, I went back and listened to the podcast so I could hear what you guys said about Crash and then just everything else. And so, yeah, so I didn't realize that either. But so yeah, Henry VIII is kind of a meme. But so I saw that. I was pretty excited. But what were you guys' thoughts then on the musical?
You could definitely tell it was from 2017. Yeah, I was listening to the soundtrack and doing a little bit of prepping for the podcast, and I had to check to make sure that I was listening to either the same or a different song, because there were certain points where I wasn't really sure if it moved on to the next song, because a lot of them did sound a little bit similar, but I mean it was all right. Yeah, it was definitely very pop and techno-y, a little bit of hip hop in there. Very modern musical.
Yeah, I was going to say that it did sound a little like I was like after doing my like research on it, research being like maybe two, like
a couple minutes on Wikipedia.
Yeah, exactly. Like a very quick Wikipedia type research. I was expecting something that was more classical, not classical, but like more operatic, I suppose.
Yes.
But this is not that, and I was pleasantly surprised, to be honest.
Well, especially with how successful Hamilton was, it makes sense. This is another one kind of similar, where it is kind of a retelling of something like a historical event, but using more modern musical tropes with it instead of a traditional stuff. And so, yeah, it's a good idea, because like that the lives of the 6 wives of Henry VIII as a pop concert, trying to tell the story of who suffered the most, and then whoever becomes a singer, like stuff like that. It's like it's creative. It's like while it really wasn't my cup of tea in terms of it, and I like musicals usually, I just didn't connect with it, and maybe part of that's because I listened to it and I didn't actually see it, but yeah, it was one that I didn't maybe connect to it as much as say like Hairspray. I love Hairspray, or stuff like that. It's one that Mamma Mia is another good musical, but I didn't connect it as much as those two. But also, how much of it is because I listened to it. But the idea is wonderful, and just the different stuff they did, and there's some of the different modern twists they took to throw on it. I caught myself laughing a few times at some of the lyrics.
Yes, yeah. There were some. Like there were some lines that were they were kind of lame actually. Like when it opened up the very first song, where it's like we were all once wives, but now we're ex-wives. I'm like, that was kind of a lame way to start. But then they made some dick jokes that I was like, yeah. That
because
I thought
you're
were
a
really
child.
Yeah, because I'm 11 years old. But I went on the internet and did some research, and I always, for everything, for products I buy or for things I watch, I look at 3-star reviews and 4-star reviews, because 5 stars are like, this is awesome. Like, okay, that told me nothing. Or some 1-star reviews are like, it sucked. Like, that also told me absolutely nothing. So apparently the people that didn't really like this musical went in expecting a plot, but the purpose of the musical was it was created in the style of kind of like a very long music video. So as far as that goes, I think it performed exactly the way it was supposed to. It just didn't necessarily vibe too hard for me, but I still had some giggles here and there.
That actually checks out, because as I was listening to it, I wasn't sure if it was due to the lack of there being any like dialogue in between, because we listened to the soundtrack, but it didn't, like, I couldn't follow what the plot would be. And so it makes a lot of sense that there wasn't necessarily like a plot. It was more made for this, as you said, like music video type performance.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, it explains a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you guys then give it as a rating?
I would give it a solid 7.5 ex-wives out of 10.
I would give this 6.5 tiny dick jokes.
I would probably give it 6 ex-wives out of 8 Henrys out of yes.
Yes.
6 out of 8.
6 out of 8.
To a sentence, and you're like, "How do I get out of here?"
Yes. But yeah, I mean, it was enjoyable. You know, like I said, yeah, it wasn't the I wasn't, and yeah, also yeah, we listened to it. We didn't actually see the music, but like my life wasn't changed after listening to it. But I also didn't want to stab my eardrums or anything like that. Like it was a funny idea, and it was a good recommendation from Corey there. So. Since Corey was there and we didn't do Johnny last week, that means, Johnny, it is your turn for another recommendation. So what do we got this week?
So I am going to go back to a Netflix show. Well, not a Netflix show, but it's a show on Netflix. And it is actually one that, Connor, you've seen before when I recommended it at Nermageddon, but I'm going to recommend it once more so you get the joy of seeing it yet again. And Luke, it's called The Magicians. It's a show about a group of magicians.
No,
that it's basically. I read a review and I kind of agree to it. The best way to explain it is Harry Potter, but the college years, and it's a more mature version of Harry Potter with a lot of good and evil and magic, obviously. But it definitely goes more in depth with the characters than I think Harry Potter ever did, because it was very focused, on the main 3. But this one, there's a large group of characters that are all going through their own, story, their own unique paths, and it's really interesting to see that even though it takes place at a college or a magic university, it's not like a school drama. It's very action based and very well, you'll see it for yourselves. It's called The Magicians. It is on Netflix, and just gotta watch episode 1. So
are you sure it's on Netflix? We've had show recommendations before.
I never from me have you
that
ever
was
gotten
mainly me.
That has always been you. It is never. I'm looking at it right now.
All right.
The Magicians is on Netflix.
Perfect.
Cool.
Hopefully it does not leave Netflix in the next couple days.
Nope. It doesn't say that it's leaving anytime soon. So
perfect. All right. So that'll be Johnny's turn. So we will talk about that next time then, and that will wrap up episode 21. Another one where we got back together after a week of one of us being apart. Although I do gotta say before we go, I cannot believe that you guys did Joel dirty that much and had him eliminated so quickly. there was a couple others that I was like, oh, well, I need to make sure I complain about it. But that was definitely one of them.
Well, he was I stood behind Joel, so you can blame Connor and Corey on that one.
There was another one that I was just like, really, how did this one win? But
I do have to say,
Homer Simpson beating Mufasa.
That was bullshit, and I stand by that. That was complete bullshit. But I also have to say that even though our video now is up for our dad off for Father's Day, I have to say that if at all possible, I want to change my vote back to Uncle Phil rather than Tenzin, because I think Uncle Phil is one of the most deserving father figures, and or fathers just in general. So
also, where was Darth Vader?
That would have been another good one, because if we had Bowser, we definitely should have had Darth Vader.
No, the other one too is, and of course now his name is leaving me, but Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yes. Yondu.
Michael Rooker. Yeah.
Yes.
Yondu should have been in there as well. That would have been a nice wholesome choice as well. But
we might have another for Father's Day 2021 if if Earth is still around next year for Father's Day. Then maybe we can have a second edition of Father's Dad Off or Daddy Off.
And then I better win the Daddy Off for best dog daddy with Rosa.
Exactly.
I think out of all three of us, you are the best dog dad.
I am the best dog daddy. Let's go. So now we got to debate which one of you two is the best cat daddy.
Me.
That is easily me.
Well, I guess that's the comment question of the day then for anyone who got this far. Let us know who is the true cat daddy in the comments below or tweet at us. Is it Connor or is it Johnny?
Is it and I would say don't let our YouTube art affect your decision of whose cat is in the art. But then again, also let it completely 100% affect your decision.
Alrighty, Hank, that'll wrap up episode 21. Be sure to tune in next time when we do debate that to the death.